Hey everyone, Sir Jellybean here, and we are here with a game review for Second Front. This is a game from Microprose. I did receive the game free, I'll just come up front about that, but quite an interesting one. So, what is Second Front? Well, the easiest way to explain it is, imagine a tabletop war game made into a video game. It's very interesting, quite weird to learn, but it's one of those games, kind of like Moss, which may not sound like a compliment, but at first I wasn't enjoying it, and then it grew on me, and I started to really get into it. Now, first of all, I just want to go through some of the key features of the game. So, let's just look at how much is involved in the games mission wise. So, for instance, there is multiple factions: the Germans, the Russians, the Americans, and the Commonwealth. As you can see, the Germans, for these scenarios, they get to fight, they get versus the Russians, the Americans, and the Commonwealth. So quite a lot of missions. You're talking about 20 plus missions there. The Russians get to fight the Germans, obviously the Eastern Front. The Americans get to fight, obviously, against the Germans and Allied forces, I guess, and the Commonwealth get to fight against the Germans, mainly in Africa, but also you get some of the maps in France, so some very interesting stuff. Now, these scenarios are kind of set things. You get like a certain amount of units. So, for instance, if we click on this one, the Blitz, for instance, it will tell you what forces you get. As you can see, the Germans get a large amount of armor, infantry, and some supporting infantry comes in later turns. You also fight the Russians, who get anti-tank guns, tanks, infantry, and you also get a description. The description's there, but you get a bigger one. So on the 3rd of August 1943, the Soviet Borenz and Steppe front launched a massive attack towards Belgorod. The German front was shattered. By August 6th, the Russians had breached Bodukov, I can't say that, sending the headquarters of the 4th Panzer Army fleeing the town. 2 days later, elements of the 3rd Panzer Division counterattacked the advance guard of the 5th Guards Tank Army at Oleshany between Bodukov, whatever, and Kharkov. I could say that. So you get very different scenarios, and before you say, "Oh, it'll all be the same," no, it's very different. For instance, you get a snowy map here, and you some of the later missions as well. Like for instance, if you go on the American one, it's not all about sheer amount of forces. There is this one, Bloody St. Bart's, where you basically have a large panzer and infantry task force. The Americans don't have much, but you only have 7 turns to take that objective, whereas normally it might be 20 or 30. So some of the missions are literally like blitzkrieg, kind of storming in. There's also the actual campaigns, which I haven't tried yet, but when these are unlocked, these are some really like different types of missions, different forces, and some kind of specialist maps. So, for instance, you also get the Stalingrad factory, very massive battle. Look at the amount of armor involved and infantry on both sides; it's huge. You also have tutorials, lots of tutorials. I would recommend playing through all of them. I did. It does help you teach the game. You also do want to go and read the manual. The manual's there. Go and read the manual. It's very important. You will not understand much without it. Another thing I like to mention, which is really cool, is the garage. Now, there's an insane amount of units in this, and obviously people come from Gates of Lost from with a lot of units. They're very cool. This has, I would say, arguably even more. So let's, for instance, just look at the Germans. Look at the amount of army you have there. Everything from 38Ts all the way up to Flak Panzers, various ones. You've got King Tigers, Tigeries, you've got Panzer IVs, you've got base everything, but you also got some more interesting things. So Stugis. Come down here, you've got things like this is the PZ2, you've got the SIG 38TM, you've got the SIG 2, the SIG 1B, you've got Panzer, Panzer IVs, Panzer IVs, you've got all the various guns, so you have tons of choice. The Brits have a lot of choice as well. Look at the armour, everything from your light vehicle, and you can compare them, as you can see there. You've got the Crocodile Sherman, the Achilles, Crusaders, you've got all sorts of interesting tanks, the Sexton. And the Americans get some really cool tanks as well. I actually really like the armoured cars for the Americans, the M8 and the M20, which are really cool. They also get some really good supporting weapons, things like your 90mm anti-aircraft gun, which we obviously know from Gates of Hell as well. So there's tons and tons of choice, with literally ridiculous amounts of stuff. The Russians get their own really interesting stuff. You've got your Sherman, your IS series of tanks, you've got your KV-85s, KV-1Ss, basically tons and tons of choice. You even got your T-35s snuck in there, I love it. And you've got some of the more rare elements. You've got your KVH flame tanks, lots and lots of choice. Some units that you've seen, and some things that I didn't even know existed. Some really interesting vehicles, and some really interesting anti-tank guns. So there's tons of choice on units. So it's a very rich game content-wise, which I really like. And we're just going to explain some of the stats here as well. As you can see, everything has different armor, there's different weapons, the firing ranges, the target size, the reload speed, and things have a chance for, barrels to break, all sorts of stuff. So, and there is an element of randomization. So now we're going to jump into some content I've actually filmed, and I'm going to talk you through kind of what was going on and kind of what happened whilst we were doing it. So you might find some of the gameplay a bit more interesting. So here we are at the Kiev is doomed scenario, and this is basically what your scenarios look like. They are preset, so as you can see, you'll have your reinforcements arrive, and basically this is an attack scenario, for instance, with the Germans. So we need to capture these. This will tick down 10 points per turn as it's owned. So 20 turns to capture both those objectives. That's our base objective. This is also a Russian reinforcement point. And obviously, as you come in, you have a light element. So for instance, if I move these units up just to spot for us, like let's say I move this armoured car just kind of up there, you have tons and tons of stuff. You can also move more stuff coming in. So you can move the armoured cars up. And there's a lot of armoured cars here, actually. I'm kind of just moving them up to show you what you get. You get a lot of stuff, and then you've got tanks supporting. This is still in 1941, so still quite like German armour. And we're bringing quite a lot of armour to the field. And as you can see, you've got different moves. You can move and stop, move and run, deploy smoke, and even close the hatches on vehicles, all sorts of stuff. Now, the interesting thing about it, even though it's a set scenario, there's multiple ways you want to do it. Do you want to flank around the left? Do you want to push at the centre? Do you want to try and, move in kind of around different ways? Vehicles can also even carry troops on them. It can tell you how many troops it can carry, if it can carry any at all. Some can carry some can carry none. So you can sometimes carry half a squad or a full squad. As you can see, this side we have more kind of infantry and mechanized forces here, which are going to try and advance to basically engage. Now you have to be careful. I'm moving up pretty recklessly just to show you. And as you can see, target hit, burning wreck. That will be a hidden enemy force. What I should have done is move the infantry up and probably tried to spot what was up there. As you can see, being contacted. And as we get into the forest, getting contacted more. We're quite lucky because the enemy is quite far away. The forest is clear, but we are being engaged by snipers, machine guns, and they are broken. So not very good for me there, obviously, if I was playing a bit more sturdy. But what I'm saying is there's tons of different elements to the game, tons of different things. You've got different stats. It varies on how things move, if you can shoot, and it's very much like an actual war game to me. That's the main thing. It reminds me of like a board game war game where you have move and shoot move and fire phase. The enemy then gets a shooting phase for what they can see. You then get like the escape phase, so certain units that are broken and wrapped try and escape. And then you have the advance phase, which is units get like a one move so they can go into melee combat. Yeah, there's melee, so they'll fight and attack each other. And then you get the recovery phase, and then the other faction has their phase, and that's one turn. So a lot happens, and it is very ordered. Obviously here I've just kind of shown off the units moving, so it's quite interesting. Obviously this is unit firing, so as you can see here, there's a 1% chance of the gun malfunctioning, a 17% chance for a quick reload, which gives you another shot. Aiming, oh no, the 1% chance to aim in and 2% chance to kill. So only have a 1% chance to hit, which is nothing. So we're just going to fire. It's not going to hit, or very unlikely. Missed. But you can also, for instance, fire MGs sometimes. These vehicles can fire MGs, but there's very little chance of them hitting. Well, that's the autocannon there. This can fire its machine guns, but you can still suppress, even if you're not hitting particularly well. As you can see, very little chance of hitting because we've moved and it's quite far away. If you're moving, it does definitely diminish. And as you can see there, we've got a quick reload, so you can keep just pumping rounds out. It's not going to do much. In quite a strong building. You can even fire, you can fire accurate, you can fire unguided, like unaimed as well. So fire unaimed, just go for it. And just keep suppressing. And sometimes you will get pin in, sometimes you'll break them, but not much. But yeah, there's tons of options. The only thing I would say about this game, which I really enjoyed, there is a roadmap, by the way, as well. They're going to do a lot more stuff. The scenarios are fun. What would make this game great? Imagine these battlefields, but with a strategic map. So imagine out a strategic map, kind of like, not Total War-esque, but turn-based, where, for instance, you did the German invasion of Russia, or you did the Russian defense on the Eastern Front, and you move your armies and then you engage in a battle, kind of like a tabletop war game like this. And I think if Second Front can do that, this becomes from a great game to an amazing game, because it is very fun. The scenarios are so different. So, for instance, this scenario is very, well, I've rushed in and been an idiot, but because you have 20 turns to take both these points, you've got loads of chance to flank positions, cut off their reinforcements. Most likely, I would have tried to probably push around the left side and try to push up here. There's less likely to be armour or defensive stuff. Maybe that's the tank that actually shot me. Well, no, most likely it was an AT gun. So you have time to recon, whereas some missions you don't have as much time. But it's one of those games where it doesn't look that appealing first off. But once you get into it and understand the mechanics and you understand all the stuff, it does get a lot better. And obviously, like I just like this is the help button, for instance, just some basics, and it shows you the complexity of, for instance, armored units. There's so much to go in there. Infantry, kind of quality, the movement, the morale, the weapons, fire adjacent, better at aiming, 2 to 6 normal aiming, long range, poor aiming. So you get it. It's very complicated. I'm still learning, even after like 10, 15 hours in it. And as you learn more, the game gets a lot better. For instance, all these little different icons that pop up when things happen, I still don't know half of them. I would say that's the only thing. It's a very simple to jump in, but hard to learn everything. It will take you a few hours, probably 10 hours, to really get stuck in and really learn some stuff. But I think it's worth it if you like these types of games. And I will continue playing. I'm actually hoping to do some missions for the channel, if the video does well, let's say. But as the roadmap progresses, it will be interesting to see. And I will quickly jump out of this and I will show you the roadmap as well, so you can see what is upcoming. And here you can see on the store page the roadmap. So obviously they've already done the Bully Beef and Biscuits. I think that was the last DLC. Disruption now. We've got tank commanders in there and stuff like that, which you could see. But things like berserk units, fortified buildings, which will be interesting. Partisans, which will change up. Human wave, which I imagine is, as it says, mines, which should make it a lot interesting. Inner factory walls, overrun. Night artillery, which would be interesting in planes calling airstrikes, because that is something that is missing. Prisoners interrogation and Japanese US Marine Corps, early US Philippines armies. Pacific theatre with new terrain and multiplayer, which honestly multiplayer I'd say is the last thing that they need right now. Everything, but that is a very good looking roadmap, and it's one of those games that is slowly progressing. I saw it out a couple of years ago and actually completely forgot about it, but obviously I admit I got it free, which is nice, but it does seem like it's definitely progressing nicely. It's got very good positive ratings on Steam, and I've enjoyed it. And I don't know what the so it is $29.50, which I admit it's quite a steep price, but as of now, so I'm about 7 hours played. That's right, I'm sure I'm at 8. But £29.50 so far. I would say all on sale for about 20 quid. It's definitely worth it. I think if they get all these roadmap then it's worth the 30 quid. I think that's fair. It's about 5-6 pints of beer, so that is fair. And I am going to be playing more of it. I'm enjoying it. I do think, though, if they get the idea of what I said, like a strategic map and linking all those scenarios, all those like moving and engaging armies, like a campaign map, and then going and fighting the battles, like kind of like a turn-based Total War. A bit simplified, but you kind of understand it. That could make this game go from being kind of good to being amazing and a must-buy for strategy gamers. So I'm really hoping they maybe see this video and do that. But definitely keep up with Second Front. I'm going to keep playing it, and I think it's something you'll see come back on the channel as the updates come through. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a nice little sneak peek. There will be Second Front videos coming, so I think it's something nice and different for the strategy gamers. I do intend to play some of the British campaigns, Americans as well, and show off all their goodies. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone, and you guys have a fantastic evening. And check out Second Front. I'll link it in the description. Take it easy, guys.